Now, another thing that Hollywood does, and I don't blame them for this one, is they take some liberties with what it's like to start an aircraft. In reality, there would be 10 minutes of boring film where the pilot is speaking with the crew chief. Now I want you to check your flaps. Now I want you to check your rudders. Now I want you to check whatever it is. And there's this warm-up that you have to do. You have to check that everything is going to work. You don't just take it and go, kick the tires, light the fires, right? Hello, my name is Vincent Aiello. I am a retired United States Navy fighter pilot and former instructor at the Navy Fighter Weapons School, better known as Top Gun. Over the course of my 25-year career, I spent more than 3 years on aircraft carriers over 5 deployments, flying primarily the F/A-18 Hornet and Super Hornet. And today we are going to explore air combat scenes in popular movies. This is The Incredibles. I remember it being a really fun family movie. You've got entertainment for both the kids and the parents. But this scene just, it proliferates the stereotypes about surface-to-air missiles. These things are traveling at Mach 3, and they have pretty much one chance to down whatever aircraft they're launched at. What they don't do is chase it around like a rabid dog going after an intruder. Here you have Elastigirl who sees these missiles coming at her, and by the time she sits down and puts on her headset, it would impact the aircraft. And I love the very first thing she does. Illuminates the fasten seatbelt sign. Anyway, so she puts out some chaff, which is always a good idea. Aircraft are equipped with chaff, and like we saw in Iron Man, flares, and those are to defeat, respectively, both radar-guided and infrared-guided missiles. And it is usually best to do that with a maneuver of some sort. Just putting them out in this situation might work, and she does a little maneuver there. But those missiles that were coming head on are suddenly behind her and chasing her down. Aileron rolls. Oh my goodness. Aileron rolls do not help to simply defeat it. But in this scene, she breaks out of the clouds, and lo and behold, there's a bunch of ocean in front of her. She scoops it out the last second, which is a great decoy, by the way, for the missile. Anytime you can get close to the ground without hitting it, anything that's attacking you is going to have a harder time. And so we saw the first missile detonate in the chaff cloud again, it looked like, which probably not real likely. And the next one impacts the water, and that's great. Unfortunately, so does the aircraft, and yet we'll just jam the throttles forward and keep going. Now, aircraft designed to land on water can do this, although you still need to land very gently. A jet like this, I don't think so.
Disengage, repeat, disengage!
But the advisor on this scene did a wonderful job of providing Holly Hunter and the script writers, of course, the right terminology to use.
Disengage!
Disengage, friendlies. I assume she thinks that someone who doesn't mean to be employing against her is, in fact, hey, so don't engage us, we are friendlies. In a little while, you hear buddy spike,
Niner is buddy spike, abort!
which is a term for, hey, someone is putting their radar on someone else, and if you know it's a friendly, that means it's a buddy spike. Hey, break your lock. Don't keep illuminating me with your radar so you're not as likely to shoot me down. What I love about it is she gets all these terms right. What I don't love about it is, yes, at Top Gun, we trained always using the correct terminology. And when we come back from a training mission, we will sit and painfully debrief what we said and what we could have said. But in real life, when someone's shooting at you, you're probably not going to perfectly say it like she does here, because people are really shooting at you. You're going to be scared out of your wits. And so I thought she was actually too perfect, which is kind of funny.
0 miles south, southwest of your position. Angels 10.
So now here you have the missiles that are flying alongside, almost in formation. Here you go. And I realize we need the climax of this particular scene. We need the daughter to get upset that she can't do it, and mom to get a little more panicky, and she'll save the day. But I'm pretty sure the missiles don't fly in formation and then slowly close in to attack you, as we have depicted here. And then you again have this massive detonation. Now, maybe we'll give them the benefit of the doubt that the missiles set off the fuel remaining in the aircraft, but it's generally not this nuclear-looking explosion with just this massive fireball and little bits and pieces everywhere. That might be a little over-dramatized. And then we have everybody falling, but we have superhuman powers here. So Mom can turn herself into a parachute that you might see in an ejection scenario. And what I love about it is they got it right. It's a round parachute.
Brace yourselves!
And they will gently fall down to the ground, as will all the wreckage. But here we have some humans that are falling. Then they are being retarded by the parachute, and they fall gently. But what happens? They land in the water, and this massive hulk of aircraft that's remaining comes screaming down again. All right, well, maybe the fuselage ended up with some sort of upward vector at the explosion, and it took a little longer, but even with the parachute, I'm not so sure.
Both of you will get a grip, or so help me, I will ground you for a month.
Well, apart from yelling at your family if they're there with you, the first thing aircrew want to do when they land in the water is get out of the water. So in tactical fighter aircraft, we have a raft as part of the ejection seat survival equipment, and it will deploy on your way down before you hit the water, and it will be tethered to you with a lanyard, and you will want to board that raft, not only for anti-exposure of cold water, but also to get yourself, frankly, out of the food chain. Then you want to assess your situation. Are you injured? Do you have any immediate first aid requirements that you need to administer, stop the bleeding, reset a sprain, do something along those lines? And the next thing you want to do is to establish communication. So if you were in a situation where there are two aircraft and one goes down, well, the F-22 that remained airborne, the Whiplash II, I believe it was, he would want to assume the on-scene commander role and say, hey everybody, my wingman is down, I can see him in the water, I'm going to stay here as long as I can, fuel permitting, until either a rescue helicopter approaches or a ship or some other relief happens so that we can retrieve that person. And you want to take stock of what you have available. All you'll have is whatever you brought with you. So we do have survival vests equipped with different tools and different things that might be useful to you, as well as signaling devices like mirrors, smoke, pencil flares. You might have a shroud knife to cut the parachute shrouds so that they're not tangling you up. You might have a little extra water. You might have whatever you've carried in your G-suit. And then again, the harness that you've strapped into the ejection seat with, it will have something in the seat pan, maybe a little extra water, maybe even some food. And so you want to take stock of all that, depending on your situation. In this case, they're out in the open ocean, so they want to make sure they are ready for an extended survival situation. All right, 20th Century Fox brought us True Lies. Top Gun was good for the Navy. Iron Eagle was not quite as good for the Air Force. And the Marine Corps, of course, has the great Santini, and now, thankfully, True Lies. So our character here, Arnold Schwarzenegger, he does it all, including flying the venerable AV-8B Harrier. And in fact, he needs it to go rescue his daughter, who's been captured by these evil terrorists and held in a skyscraper in Miami under construction. So the AV-8B Harrier depicted here is an aircraft found in the United States Marine Corps only, and it's based on the Sea Harrier design that was originally in service in the United Kingdom. And it actually has a very long and storied service life from the 80s on, and is still in service with the United States Marine Corps today. And even though it's been 7 years, he can pick right back up and fly this thing with no trouble. So you've got the henchmen here that are going to fire at him. A couple things. Number one, with the canopy blown to bits like this, and the engine at significant power or sufficient power to hover, isn't that big fan right behind you going to be pretty loud? It's probably going to suck everything down it, including all those broken shards of glass, maybe even the pilot if you're not strapped in well. When you are flying a Harrier in hover mode, it's a lot like taking a bowling ball and balancing it on a BB. So you're sitting there holding the bowling ball and you're trying to keep it exactly right. The last thing you're going to do is let go of those controls, because wherever you ended up last is where that aircraft is going to fall off if you're not constantly putting more inputs in. So we have some liberties taken here, but it's a great scene. I think the Harrier scene here treated the Marine Corps well. We have a fully loaded Harrier here. We've got rocket pods, 2.75 inch. We've got the AIM-9 Sidewinder, and we have gun pods, and this is really a configuration for the Harrier. It's the GAU 12 25mm cannon. Unlike the F-22 we saw in Iron Eagle, this one is going to fire about 3,600 rounds a minute, so about 60 rounds a second. And the gun will be on the left, the rounds will be on the right. Now, curiously, because the flame out of this GAU 12 cannon is so long, and it could get sucked back up into the intake, you actually have, as a Harrier pilot, a 150 knot minimum speed to fire that. And here he is firing at basically 0. But again, we're not going to worry about that. This aircraft is obviously significantly damaged already. I do love, though, that they show it firing, and I don't know how they filmed that scene with the water flaring up in the background, but I thought that was pretty cool. And then it hits the side of the building. And again, you've got that independent sound of bullets coming out, like that rat-a-tat-tat machine gun. I think it's going to be a bit more, even though it's not 100 rounds a second, I think it's going to be more of a zzz kind of continual sound for 60 rounds a second. That's still a lot of rounds. All right, so his poor distressed daughter, who only today also found out that her dad is this super secret Omega spy, is now hanging from this crane, and she's going to jump onto the nose of this Harrier. While he's flying it, I don't know, maybe it's a 100-pound center of gravity change suddenly up at the front. I think we're going to have to wave the flag on that one, as well as this one. He's got the balance with this aircraft to do it. I don't know. I don't know why. Maybe Arnold didn't just land on top of the building and let her down, but of course this is a bit more dramatic. Yeah, so as he's out of the cockpit there, he's definitely not using his legs. He's not using his left hand. It looks like maybe Arnold's using his right to fly the aircraft, but that might be a little bit of a stretch. As if the rest of this was fully real. And I feel for this poor janitor. He's working so hard to get this office nice and clean. He's got his music, he's vacuuming, he's making it look good. And these careless heroes and villains are just out there wrestling around, and next thing you know, busting up the joint. I mean, come on. That looks painful. I think the aircraft could keep flying. Glass and structure of a building, it's fairly strong, but maybe not as strong as a Harrier. You know, in the tail, you do have different little exhaust ports that keep it with the right yaw, as well as at the wingtips and everywhere else. It's what keeps the aircraft in balance when it's hovering. So if those weren't damaged, yeah, maybe it could keep hovering here. Hey, better lucky than good. Lo and behold, the AK-47's right there waiting. So I've seen the launchers that we use for our AIM-9 Sidewinders, and they're not all that strong. Now, the missile itself weighs about 200 pounds. Let's assume this gentleman in his combat boots and vest and weapon weigh about 200 pounds. Plus, he's falling, so he's got a little inertia and momentum. I'm pretty sure he's going to rip that weapon right off that launcher. And even if he doesn't, I'm thinking as soon as this weapon fires, I don't know that it's going to travel quite that well. It does have a strong rocket, but...
You're fired.
That's just a little glorious. And there's that huge fireball again. We can't go without those. I don't know. I'm going to wave the brown flag on that whole sequence. I'm sorry. Great movie. Marines, you served well and were represented well, but I'm not so sure. All right, 1986 not only brought us Top Gun, but it also earlier in that year brought us Iron Eagle. Now, this movie hasn't really aged too well. And when I was young, I loved it because it had flying scenes, and those were hard to get. We didn't have the internet back then. But now, it's kind of painful to watch. So in the very first scene here that we're going to look at today, we have our hero Doug taking Chappie, who he's got to convince, out for a ride in this F-16B. And the first thing we notice is the seat belts out of my 1965 Chevy Impala are what is holding Doug here to the ejection seat. It's awful. Come on, folks, where were we at on that one, TriStar? Help us out. This fitting has to be able to do two things, at least for us in the Navy, the second thing, but for everyone, it has to be strong enough to attach you and your 200 pounds roughly with everything you're wearing, and that ejection seat, it straps you, as we said earlier, into the head box where the parachute is. So if you have to eject, and when that seat man separation occurs, Those 2 points are all that is holding you to that parachute. And I don't think a 60s era muscle car seatbelt is gonna hack it. But the second thing it does, at least for Navy flyers, and I assume the Air Force aircraft have the same thing, is they actually have salt water detection capability built into them. So if you eject and are knocked unconscious, let's think of Goose in Top Gun, well, when you hit the water, bam, those are gonna pop, and you are going to be hopefully free of that parachute, which if it collects enough water could drag you down and drown you. All right, they'll make their way over to the runway and they'll take off. And another thing that I felt kind of slipped through the editing cracks here a little bit is we have this footage of F-16s flying. Sometimes the wings are clean, meaning nothing on them. Sometimes they are loaded with weapons, and I just felt like they should have been a little more consistent, but that's okay. All right, so of course the first thing that Doug has to do is convince Chappie Sinclair that he is in fact a fighter pilot, even a hot dog fighter pilot. I guess if you do some aileron rolls, you can tell I hate aileron rolls. I never knew I did before today, but that makes you a hot dog.
But you was a pilot, not an astronaut.
And then if you fly vertically, I guess you're an astronaut. Generally, we would have a dark visor on, as well as the mask. The mask is supposed to be on from startup to shutdown. Now, admittedly, I've flown with my mask off plenty. But in this case, Hollywood needs us to see the anguish, the exhilaration, the different facial expressions so that we can be more in tune with our actors. Here we have an F-16. The wings are clean in this case. And in the very next scene, we've got bombs. I mean, come on, you could have at least spaced it out a little bit, but we'll forgive them. It was flying scenes, and in the 80s, that was hard to find.
Head over to the range.
Yes, sir, Colonel, sir.
Now, the FA-18 that I flew for most of my career, as the name implies, is both fighter and attack. And I have attacked a lot of ranges in my day, or target complexes, whatever you want to call them. But I have never seen targets quite like what they have depicted here. Great big blue squares with red X's. I imagine that that is necessary for something visually significant for the audience. Just never seen anything quite like it.
It's a little different. You just gotta feel your way. I want you to concentrate.
You just gotta feel your way. I want you to concentrate. Now, this might have been something one of my instructors said to me in flight school. These days, aircraft don't tell anyone because they probably pay us too much, as easy as it is, but it's almost foolproof. It will correct if you're at the wrong speed. It will correct for you if you're at the wrong altitude or dive angle. Now, you might dud the bomb if you're too low, or it might not hit with the right parameters at impact, but it is pretty easy now to attack targets, certainly with an FA-18. I never did it in the F-16, that was only air-to-air, but from what I understand, it's not that complex.
Now cut off that stuff!
I'll screw up my rhythm.
If you don't cut it off, I'll screw up something else.
Okay.
Now, while Chappie is yelling at poor Doug here for his music taste, and I don't blame him nowadays especially, what you see in the background in what I presume is a studio setting with a green screen. Now, earlier it looked normal, but here it looks like there's almost individual rocks or sagebrush. They would be at like 10 feet for it to look like that, and that is not normal. Now, the Thunderbirds and the Blue Angels, they can get down and do certain things at that low altitude. For the rest of us, that just looked a little too close, and I wish they would have done a slightly better job making it look like these guys were higher. You have a switch to arm up your weapons, and it's either in the safe switch or the arm switch. It's foolproof. You don't have to worry about a display that could fail. But I really love this display when it comes back later, because it's going to show us some feedback that's a little bit enlightening, shall I say. But it's believable. So you have a wing form, like a top-down view of the F-16. You have the fuel up here, 5703, that's pounds, that's about right. 346 rounds for the 20mm cannon. And then, I don't know what WE is. SW could be Sidewinder, MA could be Maverick. NSO, not quite sure. But here we have some rockets that are firing of some sort. And of course they miss.
This time, I want you to drop one of those Mark 82s.
Now, a Mark 82 is a 500-pound class warhead that is like a projectile of a bullet, if you think about it. It's got the pointy front end and the flat back end. But what you do is you can accessorize it. You can put a guidance kit on the front, maybe laser or GPS guided. You can put different fins on the back. You can have maybe a fin that opens to retard the bomb, or you can have conical fins that just help it fall, and it will spin and fall. But what you don't have is forward-firing Mark 82s. And I don't know what they were hoping here for, but all of a sudden, holy cow, we just lost 3,000 pounds of fuel, and that went quickly, so we might have a fuel leak. And hey, look, we have more bullets.
Say, gun cutter, you can't go in there with you shooting like this.
No, you're right. We can't go in there with you shooting like this, Doug. But Chappie, you know what solves everything? 80s rock. Now, what also is interesting here is those 80s video games we all used to play. You remember what happened when you expended all your ordnance? You push a button. You don't have to land. You don't have to quit. You don't have to go get a sandwich out of the kitchen. You just push a button and you keep playing for hours. Well, hey, look at this. A whole new platform full of weapons, and I love it. Weapons armed, yep, you betcha. Weapons firing, sure. Now, I like that they got the stick correct here. I mean, this is the coolie hat that helps you trim the aircraft, and this is the pickle switch. It's used for air-to-ground ordnance. I thought they got that part right. All right, so this is where I have just a little bone to pick. First off, we have these massive explosions like this enormous Mark 77 napalm fuel air explosion. Folks, get on one of the different video services online and look up a 500-pound Mark 80 series weapon. It's a little bit of fire, it's a lot of black, and it's not very exciting. And of course, that's why TriStar gives us this, because this is far more compelling. Target destroyed. This is the one I love. Like, you have some awesome sensor that's out there sampling the environment. It can tell that these big blue squares with the red X's are somehow destroyed with your weapons. And that alone is reason to celebrate. Oh, I love it. But hey, it's exciting. It's a good movie, and it's got great flying footage. The F-16 can pull up to 9 Gs. So if you weigh 200 pounds normally, that is like a force of 1,800 pounds pushing down on your body, which is why many fighter pilots, myself included, have stiff necks as they get older, because you're also wearing that helmet on your 8-pound head, and you have to look around in a dogfight, and that can get very painful and difficult. Pulling Gs, flying a fighter is like a full contact sport. It's very important to be in good physical conditioning and shape. And you can come back from a flight and be sweaty. You are maneuvering, you're pulling down, you're bearing against that G-force, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to keep the blood up in your head where you need it, not down in your feet where it's doing you no good, because your noggin, if it's out of blood, guess what? It's not going to work. And that is your vision, that is your decision making, that is your very consciousness. And so it can be very difficult to perform these maneuvers and stay with it. Now, your body builds a tolerance, just like it does for most other things. If you were a young person who used to not like roller coasters, you ride enough of them, you find your body gets used to spinning and twirling. And it's the same thing in fighter jets. But it is a lot of effort to keep that blood where it needs to be, and that is up in the top of your body. 20th Century Fox's Independence Day came out at a pivotal time for me. It was in the mid-90s. I had just received my Navy Wings of Gold and started flying the F-18. And it was just so much fun to see the airplane that I was going to fly. The climax, where the aliens are attacking Area 51, sees this hodgepodge of old washed up pilots that are available, because we have plenty of aircraft but not enough pilots. And I don't know that I've ever seen anything quite like that. But hey, let's make it work out, because we've got the character here who needs to redeem himself. And so one of the first scenes you see here is what we would call a DDI. It's a display in the cockpit. We have two, one on each side. And ours are normally green-hued or white-hued, frankly. It's actually otherwise pretty close. In fact, all of these indications right here are all cautions we could theoretically have in an F-18. Your left AMAD pressure, your canopy is unlocked, that's bad. We're gonna want that fixed. Hydraulic system 1A, the battery switch is not on, that's bad. Anyway, so they get some of it right, they get some of it not quite as right, but that's okay.
Let's give Mr. Case some cover!
So the president, who's out there flying, former Gulf War fighter pilot, all right, he's gonna escort the last chance. And what do? They take their 578 rounds of 20 millimeter that we have in an F-18 Legacy Hornet, and they're just gonna hose it out there in space at 100 rounds a second. So you get, what, less than 6 seconds, but we'll just shoot it out there in front of you to pave the way. And lo and behold, who knows, maybe we'll hit an alien spaceship. Plus, when the firing is happening, it sounds like an alien gun. It sounds like a laser gun. I love it.
I've got tone.
I've got tone.
Eagle 20.
Eagle 20.
Fox 2.
Fox 2. Now, one thing the instructors got right in El Toro was a lot of the terminology that's used in this movie. In other clips, you hear Will Smith's character saying, blow through, blow through. You hear all these different terminology calls that we really do use. And in this case, with that 1500 hertz tone, then you have him call his call sign, Eagle 20, Fox 2. Fox 2 is the comm brevity term for I am launching an IR-guided weapon. Fox 3 would be an autonomous weapon, and a Fox 1 would be like a radar-guided weapon, like a Sparrow. So I thought they did that well. They've got the stick right here. The only bummer is they used the wrong button. Now, in an F-16, only the trigger fires the gun, but in an F-18, the trigger fires both the guns and the missiles, and the pickle button up here is for anything air to surface. And this enormous weapon looks like a harpoon, I'm not quite sure. You've got these sparks showing like, oh dear, something's wrong. And then this display I've never seen before showing a malfunction. Scrub it now, I guess. It's an ARM 4, not an AIM 9. Okay, I stand corrected. Anyway, of course you've got the obligatory family picture, just like Cougar showed us in Top Gun. But now, because we have this malfunction and it was our last hope, and they're going to destroy that family on the ground, Russell knows what he needs to do.
All right, you alien assholes.
Now, this last scene is heroic, and don't get me wrong, I don't want to take anything from Russell. He redeems himself. My problem is with physics. So, when an F-18 flies vertically, it slows down immediately and instantly. And the ability to sustain vertical flight, at least in an F-18, is not going to last very long because you have all of gravity pulling directly behind and pulling on you, and you are going to run out of speed. The gravity and the weight of the aircraft is not going to be matched by the thrust coming out of the engines, particularly at higher altitudes. But even so, generally speaking, in the F-18, what happens is you pull, you come to a stop, and then you fall out of the sky. What you don't do is slowly and gently dock with this alien space station as you're making your way in this vertical maneuver. No, you're gonna pull your nose up, you are going to run out of airspeed, and you're gonna fall off almost immediately. So, they have to draw it out. This is his heroic moment. And apparently, if you simply put your thumb in the dike, then you have thwarted the alien attack. Of course, we've got our other heroes that have taken down their super effective screen to allow that type of strike. But what I wish they would have talked about before is, okay, Russell just martyred himself for the sake of Area 51. Hey, tell everybody, now we know how to bring him down. What about all the other fighter pilots that gave themselves up there? I mean, there should be statues to these folks all over the world now, but no, they don't even get even a bare mention. Terrible. I thought Dunkirk was a beautifully made movie, and what I really enjoyed about it is you have three storylines, and they eventually overlap and interweave. And one of them is a military aviator and his wingman, so what's not to love about that? Now, in the climactic scene for the aviator, we have him with his aircraft damaged from a previous attack, and he's not sure how much fuel he has. And he is flying over the beach where the troops are being evacuated, and his fuel exhausts. And of course, they'll use a little sound like you would expect something when it's dying with a piston motor. So what we see here, though, is he's flying along with his flaps partly extended already, flying up the beach at what looks like maybe 500 feet. So he's probably doing, let's give him the benefit of the doubt, 150 knots. Well, once you lose your thrust provided by the engine, one of two things is going to happen right away, maybe both things. One is you're either going to slow down, the other is you're going to go down. But in the world of Dunkirk, apparently neither of these is true, and you can glide your unpowered Spitfire for as long as it takes, including all the way up the beach. You can turn 180 degrees, vanquish an enemy about to attack your peers, and then fly all the way down the beach until the sun sets and finally land. And that was my one big heartache with this movie as an aviator, is when your engine quits, guess what? You're going down right away and you're thinking about ditching. All right, so our hero went gliding off from right to left. Looked like at that point he was maybe 300 feet off the ground. And now we've got this Stuka dive bomber attacking the British folks, waiting to go to safety. Our resigned commander takes his fate by stoically closing his eyes.
No!
But lo and behold, the fighter pilot saves the day. Of course he does. He's now down to 150 feet. He still has all of his knots. And the nice thing about his engine being off is that he can hear the accolades and adulation coming from the thousands and thousands of troops on the beach. Why didn't he ditch his airplane right next to them and get in line for a ride home? Instead, he spends all this time cranking down his landing gear so that he can land on the beach and stay dry, only to then destroy his own airplane and get captured. Well, you're going to be much safer ditching, and you're going to be much safer ditching with all these ships and all these troops. So I kind of thought they missed the mark on that one too, but maybe they wanted the hero to get some sort of penance, I don't know, for staying out too long or losing his wingman, but I just felt like they should have had him do what I would have done if it was my tail on the line, and that is circle around where I feel like I could probably be plucked out of the water pretty easily and ditched next to my friendly ships trying to rescue us. So I certainly want to thank Vanity Fair for the opportunity to come and talk about a subject I'm so passionate about. I really, truly enjoyed my 25 years in service. Flying fighter jets was just the icing on the cake. And I get it, we beat up some movies today. They have to be entertaining. Real life air combat is probably not quite as glamorous as Hollywood wants it to be. And if they made it like real life, people wouldn't show up. So I really had a good time talking about these movies today, and I hope you enjoyed watching.